Hi everyone. I've been asked to do an educational video on the hammer dulcimer for someone who's doing a project in school. So this is going to be just an overview of history of the dulcimer and kind of the layout and some examples of what you can do with it. So the hammer dulcimer is actually an instrument that is very, very ancient. It dates back to Persia, about 2,000 years. And from what I understand, it really took hold in the British Isles, and then it was brought over to the United States, I believe, in the late 1880s. And from what I understand is that it was then primarily at that point it was brought over and played out on the streets because it's actually easier to play that than bring a piano. So a little bit more portable instrument. And in the 1920s, Henry Ford in Dearborn, Michigan really had a liking for the hammer dulcimer. So he formed a dulcimer orchestra, and it was played there at the Greenfield Village. And to this day, you do see some dulcimer groups that do perform at the Henry Ford Museum. It's a really fun instrument to play. You can play all kinds of music with it. Play classical, you can play folk, bluegrass, Celtic. I mean, fiddle tunes. It really just is a lot of fun. So what I'm playing here is a Michael Allen Cloud 9. It is what we call a 1514 instrument. And what that means, there's different numbers you'll see. This is a very common size. But we have two bridges on this dulcimer. And I'm going to come up a little bit closer on this. Okay, so this is the bass bridge here. This is what we call the bass bridge. This is what we call the treble bridge. Okay, now the strings, you have two strings, the same note. That's what we call our courses. So when you refer to a dulcimer size being a 1514, my 14 is that I have 14 courses going up the bass bridge, and then I have 15 courses going up the treble bridge. Another common size that we see is 1516, and that just allows for a little bit extra notes up at the top. And then of course there are some dulcimers that also have the extra bridge over on the side here. It'll be a short bridge, and that will allow for extended range, maybe some lower bass notes, and sometimes they'll have it over here. And then you'll have extended range instruments that will go down to here, and it will offer lower notes at that course. But this is a very common size. Okay, as far as the layout of the instrument, you see those white markings. Those white markings are, sometimes they're black, sometimes they're white. Those are the major notes. My instrument here starts on D. Then I have G. I have C, F, and I have that strange one up there, which is a B flat or an A sharp. Then I go to my treble bridge. It starts on A, D, G, C, and F. So whenever you see those markers, those are the majors. Okay. Now, we do have what we refer to on our instrument. Hammer dulcimer players are very used to looking at shapes. And when we talk about shapes, we a lot of times are talking about various boxes. And when I refer to a box, I'm referring to point the marker to marker to marker to marker. This is the root note of D. This would be my low D box. And I can play a scale in that low D box. Okay, And also then I can go up to my G and I can do the same thing. Over. Okay? And you would just keep going. You can do that with the C and then the F. Okay? Now, we also have a box on this side. When I refer, this is my A. This would be my A, starting with the A scale. This would be my D. Okay, and so forth. So we've got boxes here, and then boxes here. Okay. Now, what's neat about this instrument is we have our octaves. You have a D here, go here, diagonal, you have a D, go up diagonal, you have a D. So we have we have our Ds, and I also have a D up in here, but just for the sake of this part of the instrument, if you look diagonally, here, here, and here. And then for the G, go diagonal, G, and up. Okay. It's just we are very used to really looking at the bridge, at the markers on our bridge to know where we're at on our dulcimer. Okay. Now, as far as hammers, I'm going to just put this on the stand here. Okay. We play the hammered dulcimer with what we call hammers. There's hundreds, there's thousands of kind of hammers. It just depends on what you like. It depends on the grip, different grips, different woods, different weights, different lengths. This one here has a little bit of felt side to it, so it makes a little bit softer sound. And then I have the hard side if I'm going to play louder. You can see mine are a little bit worn. And then, of course, there are some that even have even more of a padding to them, so it's more of a muffled sound. Just depends on what kind of venue you're in. And again, I guess it would be just like a drummer with drumsticks. They're going to have their favorites. Okay, as far as tuning this instrument, we have what are called tuning pins. And again, I'm going to take this off so I can get a better view for you. Okay. The tuning pins on the side. And a tuning wrench. Now, some dulcimers have tuning pins on both sides. It's just a matter of how it's made. Okay, so I do use a digital tuner, and I clip it to the bridge at the top. They do say the other clip-on tuners are better, but I do use the digital, and then it will pick up. That one's just a little bit off. Okay. And then what you do is you follow your string over to the pin, and you would turn it very, very lightly. I almost say it's just like a bit of a pressure. It's not even, you wouldn't want to do a full turn. Otherwise you will really throw it off. Now keep in mind that you can see where we have 2 strings per note. So if you tune one, you gotta make sure the other one is tuned too. Okay. As far as tuning goes, they don't get out of tune a whole lot unless there's real extreme changes in temperature or humidity. And a lot of times you just recommend, say, you know what, bring it back. If I play out in warm weather, I'll bring it back home, put it in the air conditioning, and let it kind of just settle in. It usually brings itself back. And at home, when I'm playing by myself, I don't necessarily tune it every time I'm going to play unless I can tell that something is really, really out of tune. But, you know, you tune it when you're going to play with the others, and because you could drive yourself crazy with the tuning. But anyway, so that's kind of the layout of the instrument. Now, As far as there are a lot of different ways we can play this instrument. One thing with hammer dulcimer players is we like to keep our hands moving. It's very important to work on hammer technique. If you're right-handed, that left hand is really going to need a lot of work because we do use that left hand a lot. The left-handers have the advantage. So it's a matter of getting the hammers loose in your fingers and not having that whole hand and arm movement, because the faster you play, the more you want to be able to just flick those hammers. So I always tell everybody, just sit in front of the TV and just work with your hammers and just kind of get them going. But it's more of a finger movement than it is your hand and arm. And you can see how we can get those going. Okay. We do have different, as I say, we really want to keep those hammers going. A lot of times we're playing in jams, we're playing just our typical fiddle tunes, and that would be what I would call a right hand lead. Now when I refer to a right hand lead, that is primarily that my melody is going to be carried with my right hand. My left hand is basically just going to be keeping droning going at this point. Okay. So we want to again keep that. We're going to keep that motion going. I'm going to play a tune called Soldier's Joy, and if you watch my right hand, you'll notice my right hand is doing more of the movement, and my left hand is not doing a whole lot, but it's adding to it, and it is what we call droning. Sorry, started wrong. Okay, so you notice I really didn't stop those hands both from going, and then my left hand just kind of was carrying some drone. Just my beat is carried with my right, and that again is good practice that we can do using a metronome, and that is just getting that beat going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Doing that with the metronome is really, really good practice. Okay, so that is just kind of a typical fiddle tune. Fiddle tunes are 4/4 time. They're played at A part, B part. Both parts are played twice, and then the song repeats. There are sometimes a C part, sometimes a D part, but generally it's an A part and B part. They were tunes that were played for dances. Okay, now we have what we would say a synchronized rhythm or a rag rhythm. And you will notice, I will do this for you, and you will notice that my hands, again, are doing a right-left. However, I want to say I'm kind of in a circular motion. I'm going to play Festival Rag, and this was written by Bill Robinson in Illinois. He's a fantastic dulcimer player. So I will play this one. syncopated. I want to say syncopated rhythm. Okay, and then we have our, okay, then we would have our jig, which is a 6/8 time. And the jigs are, kind of get away from that right, left a little bit. I mean, we're primarily doing the right, left, but we need to use that left hand for a couple of hits to be able to continue with that 6/8 time. All right, I'm going to play one called Bellman's Jig, and I apologize because I have to refresh on some of these as I play them. I'm just going to kind of play the end of it and bring it in. So again, that one, I had to do, instead of always doing that right, left, I had to do some with my left. And that's only because you got to keep it, otherwise it's going to bounce back into 4/4 time. Okay. I'm going to play a tune called, a hymn called Sweet Hour of Prayer, and the reason that I'm going to bring this in is because I want to just show you ways that now not all of, if you want to play church music or something like that, you can just do some chording with it. And I am going to be playing the melody primarily with my left hand because I want to free up my right hand for the embellishments. Now, when I talk about embellishments, I'm talking about chording. A lot of our chording we're going to be wanting to do, using these bass notes. It just brings in so much. But we can do all kinds of chording. We can start. So that's a D arpeggio. Another embellishment would just be doing something like this. Again, it's just a different way of playing. So I'm going to just do some simple chording, and what I'm doing is what I call line chording. I'm with this. There's definitely a lot more you can do with it, but I want to give you an idea of my left hand carrying that melody to my right hand just carrying the embellishments. Okay. All right. So We have, again, we've got our 4/4 time, we've got our waltzes that we do, and when we play waltzes, we generally carry the melody again with our right hand or our left hand, so we're able to do some recording with our left. Then we've got our 6/8 time and our syncopated rhythm, which is the rag rhythm. So hopefully that is going to give you a pretty good overview of the hammered dulcimer. One other thing I can say is that what's so neat about this instrument is that we are in a jam. If someone calls it out in the key, something out in the key of D, and I don't know the tune, I am going to be able to figure it out by my boxes, and I'm going to be able to most likely move to a different key pretty quickly, because if they call it out in the key of G, I know where my boxes are. Okay, so that I hope this gets some interest in playing the hammered dulcimer. Thanks.